People who had super crappy first encounters with their significant others. How did you end up together? My now sister-in-law wanted to set me up with her sister. We were set to meet for drinks. A few people, not too much pressure. Well, she failed to mention the setup part to my now wife. She shows up. She was doing a cleanse at the time. She wasn't drinking and only eating clean. She didn't really want to be there. She brought a friend with her and barely spoke to me. Well, I thought she was pretty and wanted to actually speak with her. My now sister-in-law gave me her sister's number. A few days later, I bravely called and left a voicemail. I said, "Hello, this is your friend's sister." "Oh wait, no. I mean your sister's friend." Ugh, that didn't come out right. "Well anyway, give me a call back if you'd like to hang out sometime." She called back and the rest is history. She told me sometime later, the only reason she called me was she thought it was cute that I didn't delete the voicemail and re-record it. Plot twist. I had no idea you could do that. Once again we have proved ignorance is bliss. I was at small party at my friend's apartment. One of our other friends brought a girl. Thought she was super cute, and we talked for a few minutes before a drinking game. I drank and drank some more. I ended up getting really sick and laying and being relocated to the bathtub. When she left, she said bye to me while she was peeing and I was soaked in puke and water from the shower. Asked her out about a week later, and for some reason, she said yes. Went to a dog park and now we've been together since. My cousin told me the first time he met his now wife, she was sitting on a bench outside in the winter. His first words to her were, "My grandmother told me that you get hemorrhoids from sitting on a cold bench for too long." That was his freaking icebreaker. I'm making it a goal to use this line on someone. My aunts are notorious for this. One of my aunts got wasted on her first date with my uncle and fell out of the passenger seat hanging from the seat belt. Another aunt went on a first date with my now uncle where he puked out his fake teeth. That's a lot. My flirtatious new friend took me to meet the crew at their table and I was immediately put off by the stone-faced, sour-faced, drill sergeant-faced, resting bee-faced, joyless for 5 whole minutes, completely disinterested lump of coal in this group of friendlies. Then, without warning, a smile I'll never forget. We spoke for hours on the phone that night and every night thereafter for weeks. IDKY, but this is the cutest crap I've ever heard. I wouldn't call it extremely crappy, but somehow my so found me constantly drunkenly fixing her costume at a party attractive enough to date me. Alcohol does wonders sometime. It might be odd, but I can see how that might be endearing. Alcohol shows you the unfiltered person. Your unfiltered personality is a caretaker. More hilarious than crappy, but my husband threw a giant inflatable penis into my window in order to meet me back in college. We've been together for 15 years now. Met in college. I always thought she was doing this fake but cute voice. She'd squeal and obsess over things she liked. Grew to us, I avoided her. So one day while waiting alone for a class to start, we passed a ping pong ball back and forth across a table out of boredom. Then I blew it across, which was harder to control and thus more interesting. We found ourselves in a full-on ping pong ball air war, with close calls and crazy jukes. Didn't talk to her after for a month. Later during lunch, a guy is talking to a group of people, including me and her, about a girl Heb is interested in and asking for others' opinion on whether he should try to make something out of it. He said something about there being conflicts during a project. And Ping Pong Girl says something like, you need to be able to work with someone if you are going to be in a relationship, and I'm like, yes so much yes, you are 100% on my radar, squeal girl. Later we're in the same class and there is a group project. I just kinda go, who wants to work with me? She volunteers real quick. We both knew something was going on. We decide, separately and secretly, to see how we feel about the other, sort of using the project work as a testing ground. We gave up and made it official the second to last night. It's been 4 years. My boyfriend was, and still is, a regular at the restaurant where I work. The first time we ever talked was when I was making his food and someone dropped a metal pan on the tile floor. He looked up and muttered, Jesus. I took the opportunity to impress him by holding up a handful of cheese and saying, Jesus? More like Jesus. I was greeted with an understandably confused look. The next few times I saw him I got so nervous that I did crap, like calling him the wrong name. telling him I had turned down many a suitor due to my busy work schedule, and then immediately saying that was a lie so he wouldn't think I was unavailable and generally being a moron. For God knows why, he found this attractive and began to awkwardly flirt with me by rambling on about a missed doctor's appointment. Things got even more awkward when the day I'd planned on giving him my number he came in upset that he'd found a dead body. I currently refer to that corpse as my wingman, as I used it as an excuse to leave the back of the house and comfort him. Somehow he gave me his number during that. TLDR. Jesus. Dead body. Such an awkward beginning. Glad it ended well though. We met through her mother. I was moving in with the mother and my cousin that was dating the mother. When I came here they all picked me up and the daughter was just drop dead gorgeous and hiding behind her hair most of the night. She kept snickering at my jokes though. At one point our legs were touching because we were sitting in chairs next to each other at a comedy show. I was ridiculously uncomfortable for a solid hour and a half. Because I didn't wanna stop the contact, I just suffered. Night moves along. We end up back home and the mother and my cousin headed to bed. That left us alone on the couch watching LOTR, and I kept making my jokes. Eventually the movie cuts off and we're talking. I was obviously thinking I'm smooth as butter and trying everything I could think of to touch her. Asked her about her necklace and it was just an excuse to put the back of my hand against her upper chest. I had a terrible fear of rejection, like most of us do, but man I was really into her. So we're talking and then comes the moment. Our faces are close. She's looking into my eyes, and I feel comfortable that this is the moment I've been waiting for all night. I lean in to kiss her, and I'm so nervous, but it's okay I tell myself. She likes me too, I think. Well, I get close and my worst freaking fear happens. She turned her head. Oh my god, my face got so hot. I've never actually had that happen, because I rarely kissed any girls in my life. Usually a girl planted their lips on mine. And I've never been rejected like that. Every crappy embarrassing thing I'd ever done flashed before my eyes, because I was literally about to fricking die. I could feel my brain melting from the heat my face was creating. I wanted to cry, and then she squeaks, "You don't wanna kiss me?" And I was so confused. I said, yes, yes I do. She said, "But what if I'm not good at kissing?" Double quote. And it all made sense. She's never kissed anyone before. And so I said, well let's find out. Now we're married and we've been together 14 years. Happy as can be from the start. Prob's gonna post Reddit wedding pics soon, because our Jurassic Park theme was frickin' dope. My brother had a terrible girlfriend at the time. He calls me and tells me she brought a friend and he needs backup. I tell him sure and then fall asleep on the couch. Next thing I know he has come into my house and is pulling me off the couch by my ankle. So I go to his place. Terrible B girlfriend is there and a cute brunette. I say hello and shake her hand. Brother's terrible girlfriend is a B to me and we argue. Finally they leave to go to the club in a city 40 minutes away. 3 hours later they come back. Bro is angry because she had said they would be gone all night so him and I plan to catch up. Him and his girlfriend get into an argument. Cute brunette is angry because she had wanted to be at the club like they had planned but the girlfriend is psycho clingy and can't stay away from my bro. Anyway her and I are sitting in the living room watching TV and both want to leave because we work early but not sure if we should. I tell her, "You can put your legs on me if you want to." Turns out the guy who her friend told her was such a jerk is a nice guy. 4.5 years later she is sleeping next to me. Live in a touristy beach town and we were eating at one of the local restaurants that is positioned on a pier over the water. The place was a little crowded, so we opted to sit on the bar-like tables they had on the edges. About 30 minutes into it, we noticed kids were feeding seagulls about 15 feet away from us and I said something along the lines of, "I hope no one gets pooped on." Sure enough, the very next thing that happened was I got bird crap all on the side of my face. I looked at her, she smirked and said, "Well, they say that's good luck." Haven't looked back since. Well that's actually really crappy. There was this overnight grocery guy who was a massive jerkwad. I said hi to him and complimented his sweet Batman themed sleeve and he just growled at me. I thought, what a freaking dong and moved about my life. This was March 2013. I see him a few more times and I just ignore him. Frick him and his freaking rude butt first impression. One day, I go to work really early and hit up the nearby drugstore for a frappuccino despite there being a Starbucks not even 5 feet away. I was super tired. Alright, well the cashier working was really talkative and I go with it. She sees my uniform and goes, "Oh, you work at grocery store. You must know who my son is." I ask what his name is and she tells me. It doesn't ring a bell. And she describes him. Turns out it's the rude frick. I tell her he was rude to me. She just mentions that he's pretty surly when he wakes up. I just nod in agreement and don't really change my opinion that rude frick was just a rude frick. Fast forward almost a year. Rude frick is reading a book while he waits for work to start. I think it was a classic literature novel. I'm blanking on which one. I comment on it. We make the most minimal of small talk. Turns out he likes to read. So do I. The next time I see him, he's wearing a hoodie from Aladdin the musical. I comment on it. I somehow end up getting his number. The intent was never to start anything because I was in a 3-year relationship at the time. And surly overnight guy was in a relationship too. We just sort of text one another. 2 months go by. My relationship falls apart. To be fair, it was dying and there was an ultimatum that was made that I wasn't going to deal with. Surly's relationship had deteriorated too, because she wanted to start seeing other guys. I think the first real indication I had a thing for Surly came from the fact I was slightly jealous his girlfriend came to visit him. Imagine my elation when I heard they broke up. That was May 2014. Our first official date was the 8th of May 2014 and Surly and I show up wearing nearly identical purple fitted plaid shirts, without prior planning. July 2014. I find out I'm pregnant with Surly's kid. I lose the baby the 11th of September 2014. Surly and I move in together November 1st 2014. Surly proposes the 15th of June 2015. I became Mrs. Surly the 31st of October 2016. I got diagnosed with cancer the 28th of May 2017. Declared remission the 16th of October 2017. Discover I can't have kids of my own due to chemo in November 2017. Last active treatment for cancer was the 22nd of December 2017. Couldn't have done any of it without Surly. Also, his mom was right. He is a surly frick when he wakes up. Whoa, that was a roller coaster. I'm so sorry that you lost your baby. Equals. And that the chemo has resulted in not being able to have kids. I bet Surly would be a good dad. Life is not fair. He would not shut up about how awesome he thought he was. Boasted on and on about how he went heli skiing, hang gliding, ice climbing, how he was a brown belt in Gakanru, owned a whole lot of guns, was a concert pianist at only 11 years old. Turned out he had a massive crush on me and was trying to impress me. I thought he was a colossal windbag but all those things were actually true. He just wanted to put his best foot forward. We've been together for 8 years, married for 1. But all those things were actually true. What a wonderful thing to hear for once. Back in college we got a group of people to go to a Yankees v. Red Sox baseball game. I went to school in Connecticut and my friend group was pretty evenly split between fan bases. So we decided to invite a few more people and all went to the game together. We met up before we headed to the game and one of my friends introduced me to a pretty great girl who he invited to come along. She was a Red Sox fan and I am a Yankees fan, but I thought we hit it off despite that. I asked her for her number at the end of the night and she said, "You're a nice guy, but I would rather die than date a Yankees fan. It was nice knowing you. We have married for 9 years and have 3 sons together. The older 2 are Yankees fans. She still thinks she will be able to get the toddler on her side, but he's a smart kid. He'll make the right decision." Worked retail together. I thought he was a cutie but he ignored my existence, so I figured he was a dong. I walked past him and another co-worker talking and the co-worker says, "Hey, Lady Jean used to be fat. Come join the used to be fat club." Not an ideal start to my first conversation with someone I was crushing on, LOL. Future hubby thought I'd get embarrassed or pee, but I joked and laughed about it instead. Sense of humor is huge for him, so knowing I could take a joke broke the ice and we haven't stopped laughing together since. It's been almost 3.5 years. Turns out he didn't talk to me because I'm a pretty confident person and he found it intimidating, LOL. Personally, I find it to be incredibly attractive when a girl is confident. We were both volunteering at a haunted house and I thought he was someone I knew. Hit him, lightly, on the arm from behind. He turned around and punched my arm so hard I had a massive bruise for quite a long time. For the first week of knowing me he thought I was a 12-year-old boy. I was 16, had short hair, and was over a foot shorter than him. 5 years and 2 kids later, he still hasn't been able to live down thinking I was a boy. Joke's on him, he married and had kids with that boy. Was moving into a trailer park. Figured my neighbors would be kind of redneck. While the movers were carrying my furniture in, my next door neighbor and his friends decided to target shoot off into the woods, which scared my movers and caused them to leave me with a nearly full moving truck. In my anger, I went to the neighbor's house and told him off for scaring my movers away. He and his friends felt so bad that they unloaded the rest of the truck for me. My next door neighbor now lives in my house with me. There was this girl in my lunch line way back when in high school 9 years ago who wanted to get my attention and flirt with me. She decided to throw a fork my way. As she did, a friend called for my attention, and as I turned, the fork lodged itself in my eye, leaving me screaming in terror and pain. This time next year we'll be married. She forked your attention. My parents kind of had one like this, but it's more cute than anything else. It was the 80s, and my mom was giving out name tags to guests at her company's party. My dad shows up and is blown away by her. He wanted to say something smooth to try to pick her up, but all he could do was stammer out his name. Later in the night, another woman from the company asks my dad if some of the employees could sit at his table. My dad, acting like he's some suave big shot, says, "Yeah, get that cute blonde over here." The woman hesitantly gets my mother. My mom is, understandably, offended. "So you want me to sit next to you and be eye candy?" She asks. "Well, yeah," my dad replies. She's mad, but has to sit at the table since there are no other open tables at the party. I sat as far away from him as possible, my mom says. She sat directly opposite me so she could get a good look at me. My dad says, it was a round table, so it was both. My mom tries to be mad and acts cold. She won't look directly at my dad or talk to him. But after a bit of time, my dad notices her sneakily glancing at him over her coffee cup. 9 months later they were married. I was near the beginning of the worst time of my life. Marriage just ended. Took a job out of my field and way underpaid. Was pretty isolated. Feeling and looking just horrid. Friend whom I haven't seen in years finds out and I'm in town and invites me out to supper with him and these two just amazing. Best people ever, other friends of his. I nearly cancel but decide I can't be that depressing. We go out. Sushi restaurant. The two amazing, best ever friends turn out to be a married couple. One tall, gorgeous guy with kind eyes and this super short, narcissistic chick who won't shut up about herself and how much she loves raw fish and is totally cultured and is doing everything great in life. And OMG, did you hear about how great she was and, you know, center of attention and can't get a word in edgewise. I felt worse and worse as the evening went on. She just kept talking about great she was. I might as well have not been there. And her husband is just this obviously amazing man that's too good for her. Left that evening feeling like basically the most worthless person in the universe and that she personified every success I wish I'd had and hadn't. Stayed in touch with the guy for a number of years as an acquaintance, just because we lived near each other and he was just one of those people that makes you want to be a better person. Eventually, the woman bailed from her medical training, turned into a cheating bee, and they split, and the guy and I started really talking in earnest and he was every bit as amazing as I'd always thought. Turns out he thought I was a pretty cool person too. Now we're both happy together. 2 years. I'm in a really good place career wise, and I can't believe I ever let myself feel down because of a loser like her. Plot twist. LOL. Around 11 years ago my best friend invited me to go on a bar crawl with 2 of her co-workers who were dating each other. She said they were both a lot of fun and I generally like everyone, so I was game. We got to the first bar and they arrived shortly after. They were miserable, both sulking and not talkative. It was super awkward. The female of the couple told us at the bar while getting our drinks that they had gotten in a huge fight before they came. Her so didn't say a word to me. He didn't even introduce himself. It got so uncomfortable that my friend and I ended up just ditching them an hour later. They broke up a short while later and the same friend and I ran into the boyfriend while we were out. Turns out he is a super cool guy who is generally always happy and upbeat. 5 years after that horrible first impression I married him. My mom met my dad and thought he was an arrogant jerk. He ended up proposing a few years later. No dates or anything, just friends of friends. Oddly enough she accepted. In April they'll have their 33rd anniversary. What? My brother and brother-in-law met in the Marines. Bill was his gunnery sergeant. My brother has this habit of touching people when he gets nervous talking to them. Nothing creepy. He just talks with his hands and it goes into overdrive when he's nervous, so stuff like bumping shoulders, or grabbing someone by the forearm, or resting a hand on your knee for a second if you're sitting together. Stuff like that. Anyway, the story goes Bill made him nervous straight off the bat because he thought he was good looking and he knew he was in trouble because that was not a good thing for him at that time for obvious reasons. At one point in their first casual conversation during downtime, my brother grabbed him by the wrist and held on, not really realizing what he's doing. Bill looks at his hand, and then looks at his face, emotionless. "Don't freaking touch me." Brother immediately moved his hand, stammered out an apology, and bolted. He avoided him as much he could after that. Bill still claims it was his fault because he was acting like a friendly weirdo and he shouldn't do that with someone who outranked him. They've been together a decade at this point, have a set of twins together, and are basically the poster child for a happy gay military family. I didn't know the happy gay military couples had a poster child, but I'm super happy to find out that this is it. Not too bad I suppose, but not what I was expecting. We got a job for a holiday company in France. I had to pick him up from Calais port on his first day. I didn't know what he looked like but eventually found him smoking a cigarette with some hobos and illegal immigrants. 4 years later and we are engaged. My now husband and I used to work together 8 years ago. He was always so grumpy and I just thought he was kind of an butthole. He left about a month after I got hired. Flash forward to 3.5 years ago. We reconnected at a mutual friend's going away party. Come to find out that the reason he was so grumpy was because he just hated his job, where we worked together, and was miserable at work. After chatting for a couple hours we found out we had a lot in common and really hit it off. A few months ago we got married. Never in a million years did I ever think we'd end up together, much less married. Yay. D. She was my boss at the pizza place we worked. Now to be fair, I wasn't the best employee, but dang I hated her. She eventually fired me, and I hated her more. Long story short, we ended up living together in a townhouse not long after that, and now we have been married for 7 years and have an awesome 6-year-old daughter. I met my now husband at a McDonald's through mutual friends. He was drunk and almost got kicked out because he was so sloppily struggling to eat a quarter pounder. I was waiting for my then FWB to wish me happy birthday because it was something like 10 minutes into my 17th birthday. I didn't even look at him twice that night. We then met again about a month later at a party. We were drinking the same pre-mixed bourbon and bonded over that. 7 years later we've been married for 2.5 years and just bought our first home. Her friend, who I didn't know, decided to bring her onto a table me and my friends were having drinks at. I was in a bad mood so I didn't acknowledge the two girls. I ended up having a bit of an argument with them, then a couple days later I saw her again, smiled at her, then ended up exchanging numbers, and now I realize she's the greatest girl I've ever met. Her wife posted up there. Not the first encounter but the first real date with my now husband was awful. We'd been friends for a few years and had just started seeing each other. He takes me to see Cloverfield, so this would have been 2008. It was filmed in that shaky first person Blair Witch style. Maybe 10 minutes into the movie I get really nauseous from the shaking and tell him I need to go. Maybe we could see another movie instead. First he argues that no, he really wanted to see this. Maybe the shaking will stop. He already paid for the tickets, blah blah blah, and then he shushes me so he can keep watching. I get fed up and ask for the key so I can go wait in the car. He knows I can't drive stick so I fully expect him to feel bad and come out, but no. He watches the whole dang movie. 2 hours later he comes out to the car complaining that they wouldn't give him his money back for my ticket. I was P. and now unmarried. Still kind of a jerk and cheap as fuck, but man, do I love him. Haha. Cloverfield made me feel sick too. I was drunk though. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.